Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to continue our discussion on the end times couple and all the mysterious deaths surrounding Lori Vallow Daybell and Chad Daybell. And since this is such a complicated case, and if you're not up to speed, I suggest you watch part 1 and part 2 of the video series I did on this case. Legal disclaimer that all the people discussed herein, all of them discussed, are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to talk about my opinions. My opinions are not fact, so just saying. Let's get into it. Today I want to talk about consciousness of guilt. It looks like the state is going forward with a conspiracy theory, and it looks like they're going to be, just by looking at the charges that have been leveled so far against Lori and Chad, that they're looking to go forth with a conspiracy using Lori, Vallow Daybell, Chad Daybell, and Alex Cox, and possibly other people that are not yet named. If the state goes forward with this, they're going to be bringing forth things like physical evidence, the DNA, the physical bodies, the cell phone information, the stuff that CAST has produced to support the pings to where they went and found the bodies, text messages, witness statements. They're going to bring forth people onto the stand to say what could be arguably hearsay. So you're going to have to get around the hearsay exception. They're going to bring in a whole bunch of circumstantial evidence, and they're going to talk about something called consciousness of guilt. This is in my opinion. We're woodshedding here. And I'm going to tell you what kind of evidence can be used to create a consciousness of guilt argument. It's the inference that the defendant knows that he or she is guilty of a crime because they've taken one or more of the following actions after it. And these are things like fleeing from the crime scene, okay? Or from the jurisdiction, getting a welfare check served on you, not producing the children, and then legging it to Hawaii the next day. That would be used as consciousness of guilt. False alibis and or asking people to provide you with an alibi. Consciousness of guilt. Changing or altering your physical appearance. Hiding or destroying evidence. Putting bodies on Chad Daybell's property. Burying them. If something was really a zombie and you thought you were doing a good thing, you wouldn't have to bury it. You did it because, you do that because you know it's wrong. Bribing a witness. Offering them a portion of a life insurance policy that you're going to get to kill somebody. Consciousness of guilt. Intimidating a witness or even killing a witness. Maybe somebody's not in your group that's done things. They're not an asset to you anymore, or they're going to talk and you want to get rid of them. Consciousness of guilt. There's a whole lot of that allegedly that you could stack up. Bribing a witness, I could even go as far as to say inclusivity. Hey, you're not going to be in this group of 144,000 anymore that for the end times if you don't do what we want you to do. We'll kick you out of the gang. We'll kick you out of the cult. That's also consciousness of guilt. I'm going to go in a linear fashion, a linear timeline, and let's just woodshed on what possibly could be brought forth into trial. Now, granted, some of this, a defense attorney would watch it and go like, I'd knock that out of evidence as hearsay. So then you'd have to go around and find if there's a hearsay exception. So this is just woodshedding. Well, let's woodshed a little bit. You've got Chad Daybell, who is married, 2019, who is married to his wife, Tammy Daybell. You got Lori Vallow, who's married to her husband, Charles, okay? These two married people meet, all right? And right out of the gate, Chad Daybell tells Lori that they were married in a previous life. And to me, this is grooming. This is almost like someone who's got their own belief system, finds a blinkered follower and grooms them. And and there is something to what Melanie Gibbs said about talking about being married to somebody in a previous life. This is like automatically giving somebody like a soul bond. It's the weirdest thing, but I think that in a way this is what made it worse. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out that this isn't the first time Chad's done this with the ladies. That's just my opinion. I don't think the first time you meet somebody, you just pull this one out of your hat. Oh, we were married in a previous life, so, we can have an affair. So, they start having an affair. All right, Theolyn, they start having an affair. Who cares? Well, here's the thing. I'm not saying they were having a physical affair. We don't know. We know they were having a mental affair. Certainly they were. That's a guilty thing. Is it criminal? I don't think so. Not in most states. You can have affairs. It's not a criminal matter. But this is the path we're going down. This is the way we're starting the story. Allegedly, this pair, Chad and Lori, they're getting burner phones. Allegedly, untraceable phones in order to have their private conversations. Allegedly, away from their spouse's knowledge. Charles Vallow didn't know about it, that she had a burner phone, allegedly. Otherwise, he probably would have put it in the police report and in the divorce documents. So I didn't see anything about a burner phone from him. Certainly, Tammy didn't know that Chad was carrying on this affair with burner phones. I want to say, even if they were just used for an affair, because an affair is not murder, an affair is not mayhem and putting corpses under your property. One thing does not necessarily lead to another. However, they knew what they were doing was wrong, and that's why they didn't use their regular cell phones. Otherwise, they would just call and text each other using their numbers that everybody else had, that their wives had, that their husband has. This is a reason why criminals use burner phones, so that they can call people without leaving a trace, without leaving evidence. All right? So, do burner phones mean you're a criminal? No. But when you start stacking all the bricks together, it's part of the game. So they're having a secretive affair from their spouses, but not from this inner core circle. That is crazy to me. You are literally hiding it from Charles Vallow and from Tammy Daybell, but all these inner circle people know what you're doing. Because you trust them. Why do you trust them? Because y'all are sharing secretive belief systems. Why not get divorced like normal people? I think that's something Brandon Boudreaux had cried and said, why not get divorced like normal people? Let's talk about why not. Because there's an answer to this. Allegedly, Chad got a message from beyond the veil. The divorce wasn't an option. It wasn't an option. Why not? Why not? What gains would Chad and or Lori get from not getting a divorce? Life insurance. No pesky custody disputes. You're a widow and, widowed weeds who, you get married 2 weeks later. But you get life insurance and you don't have to worry about any kind of pesky custody disputes. Now, I don't think Chad would have that issue because he had adult children, but Lori certainly would. Tammy Daybell had $430,000 in life insurance. And Charles Vallow had a chunk too. He had more than that. But he changed his life insurance beneficiary. Lori allegedly went out of her way to try to ensure that she was still the beneficiary while she was married to her husband. She allegedly went into his life insurance account and allegedly changed the PIN and allegedly was trying to ensure that she was still the beneficiary. And he allegedly called the company and said, no, I don't want my wife that I'm going through divorce proceedings with on my policy. And she did not get the money. But that is one reason why you don't get a divorce. If you do get a divorce, most spouses, they're just talking about normal people, they'll change the beneficiary designation on their life insurance, especially if they've got adult children. They'll just find a relative they like better. They'll put that person on it. They'll put one of their adult children on it. they'll give it to somebody they want to have it, not their ex, okay? So especially if they're moving on, okay? You're moving on, you're going to usually, especially get remarried, that new person's going to end up on the beneficiary designation 9 times out of 10 for your life insurance. You know, divorce, it's not going to look great in a temple. And that's another thing. These people allegedly were concerned about their status in the temple, and their temple recommends, and it's just not going to look great for the religion. It's not going to financially benefit them to get the divorce if their spouses change their life insurance policies, and they could have some pesky custody issues. So Lori and Chad were seemingly going to have an easier road of it not to get a divorce. Charles is thinking Lori's cheating because she's acting extremely squirrely. She gets up and legs it for like 2 months while they're still married. And so he starts serving her with divorce papers. And Lori is literally dodging Charles's divorce papers. She is not trying to get served, allegedly, to the point where she wasn't even going to church at her regular service time because she was trying to dodge those damn divorce papers. Why? Was it because she loved her husband so much and wanted to make it work? No. Again, I think in my opinion it's because she wanted to make sure that whatever happened went down, that she was still on the life insurance policy. And also there's other death benefits that aren't huge payouts that she might get if she's still married to him and something happens to him. So does dodging a divorce, being served with papers, does that make you a criminal? No. But dodging the divorce so that something can happen to your spouse and you can get the life insurance because they haven't changed the beneficiary designation yet is criminal. And all the death predictions. Let's talk about the death predictions. Chad, you're not Miss Cleo, Chad. You're not Miss Cleo. You're not a fortune teller, Chad. Why are you predicting the deaths of your wife, Tammy, for one? And even going so far as to tell Lori Vallow, to tell one of your authors, but one of his authors that he was publishing these books, he confided in her. Even telling all your lady friends of this death that your wife is allegedly going to have happen. Was this wish fulfillment on your part, Chad, or was this a plan to make this work so that you could be free to be with Lori and have that sweet insurance money? It's sad. I take no glory in lining this up for you, but I'm just woodshedding on what possible things that could come out, and then maybe I'll watch my video and go like, nope, that would be hearsay. Nope. But let's lay it out. So let's talk a little bit about the religious thinking going on here regarding Charles Vallow. Allegedly, Chad told Lori that Charles had turned into a zombie. Allegedly, Melanie G had heard this while Lori got this information from Chad over the phone. Melanie and Lori were in a room, allegedly. Chad called, told Lori, and then Lori was shocked by this, that her husband was a zombie. Was this revelation that her husband was a zombie so that you wouldn't have any guilt? You wouldn't have any guilt. Lori wouldn't have any guilt. Uncle Alex, if he is the hitman, wouldn't have any guilt. It was the hitman. Wouldn't have any guilt killing him. When you make somebody a bad guy, it makes it easy to do the dirty work. It makes it easy for you to do the inexplicable. Chad compiles a list of light and dark people. He does. It's almost, in a way, I would say it's like a hit list, but then it also has light people on it. But see, as a member, this head allegedly of the 144,000 chosen, it's their mission, if they chose to receive it, to eradicate these zombies and these light and dark people. I don't know what the difference is, but eradicate these zombies from the earth. Is this just a justification to kill people that get in your way? Does the world work like this? Do people make bad guys out of people that aren't bad guys in order to make justifications? Yes. And I think this is it. I think this is compiling lists of light and dark people and rating people on their dark level and then then deeming them when they tick you off that they're zombies, it dehumanizes them. It creates an excuse that if something has to happen to them and they need to be killed, that there's no guilt. You're actually doing them a favor. You're freeing their soul into another world. They're in some kind of a limbo and you're freeing them. You're doing them a good thing. Doesn't matter that on the back end you're getting their life insurance money or you're getting something out of it. Maybe you're getting Ty Lee. Like if Ty Lee has Joe's money from his death, her own father, and if JJ's getting money for being special needs and you don't report him as being dead, would you still keep collecting that money? That's just woodshedding. That's just opinions and thinking this through. But you have a special needs kid, there's things involved. There's money, there's expenses, there's nannies, there's therapists, there's medications. Well, you don't have to deal with that. And then you can get that sweet disability money, huh? Think about it. Why are they doing this? Just to show you how they were using this, in my opinion, this zombie stuff as a manipulation. Allegedly, Ty Lee didn't feel like watching JJ one day. And Lori allegedly said to Ty Lee, "You're a zombie." And then Ty Lee said, "Not me, Mom." Allegedly. This is according to Melanie Gibb. Because Ty Lee didn't feel like babysitting, she is deemed a zombie by Lori in the moment. That is manipulative. That is, you're not doing what I want you to do. You're a zombie, and we know what happens to zombies. I want to say with this thinking, whether they really think it or not, I don't know. Because people who got in their way or contradicted them or gave them problems, all of a sudden were deemed dark. And if they could be benefited by being gone, a lot of times things happened. Someone shot at Brandon Boudreaux, and he was having a custody issue with the niece of Lori, Melanie Boudreaux. And then someone takes a pot shot at him. And then, right after takes a pot shot at Chad Daybell's wife. Same kind of way. These people were obstacles to the group. And they were attempted to be done away with. And you got to ask why. I think they needed to be gotten out of the way. I think that's what they thought. That it was just, they were bad, dark, light, zombie, whatever, and just get them out of the way, and we're doing them a favor. We're doing their sweet souls a favor by releasing them from the spirit plane so they can go on to their next journey. But meanwhile, now I don't have to deal with the custody issue, and meanwhile, I can get that sweet life insurance money, and meanwhile, I don't have to pay for all these nannies and crap, and I can just go off in Hawaii and live my best life doing luau with him playing the ukulele in Hawaii. Think about it. Really think about it. What zombies were they killing in Hawaii? After Charles's death, but before Tammy's death, Lori and Chad were fanning around openly, and only in certain places that Tammy wouldn't be. Is having an affair and skeezing around a criminal? No. But could it be something more sinister? Yeah. Because you kind of maybe knew that Tammy didn't have long in the world to even find out or kick up a fuss. How in the world did Lori pass the psych eval at Community Bridges? How was she not mentally ill if she believed people were turning into zombies? Here's the thing. 1, she either lied to the psychiatrist and said she didn't believe in zombies. Meaning she said, I really believe in zombies, but she told him, I don't believe in zombies. It's my husband's creating this problem. He's having an affair. It's bullshit. That's one. That's choice 1. Or choice 2. Lori said she believed in zombies, and the psychiatrist further queried her and then thought, well, she's not a danger to herself or others. She might be schizophrenic or something, but she's not a danger to herself or others. That's second choice. Or third choice, Lori doesn't believe in zombies. And the zombie concept is just a ploy to murder people. To get people to do what you want without feeling a consciousness twinge. I don't know. What do you think? Let's continue. After Charles's death, he was murdered by her brother, Alex Cox. The pathway's not open for Lori. Her pathway's open. She doesn't get the life insurance because he had changed the beneficiary. But now the pesky husband's out of the way. The custody issue isn't going to happen. All right? She's got the kids. But Tammy is still alive. So Chad's sitting here. Tammy's still in Chad Daybell's marital bed. And Lori allegedly tells Mel G, well, Tammy will die before I get to Rexburg. Because they've had these revelations that Tammy's going to die. Tammy's going to die. And then when allegedly there was queries about why Tammy didn't die the other times that she was supposed to, it was because someone had agency. All of a sudden, a human has agency and something doesn't happen. Does that mean that someone didn't do what they needed to do? Agency implies that there's a human that acted or didn't act. Weird, okay? Weird. Was Alex Cox supposed to try to take a pot shot at Tammy and missed? Oh yeah, because someone tried to shoot at her. Right after someone tried to shoot at Brandon Boudreaux. Yeah, I don't think that their coincidences are thick on the ground here. I don't think it's coincidence. Again, why would a healthy 49-year-old woman, Tammy Daybell, die when she wasn't 90 years old? She didn't have underlying health conditions. She died allegedly coughing the night before. That's according to Chad. And he wakes up in the morning and she's dead. Was this a plan or was this wish fulfillment? Chad is not Miss Cleo. I'm just going to tell you, Chad is not Miss Cleo. In my opinion, he is a charlatan. And I think this was a plan. I do. Let's talk about Lori and Chad allegedly sealing themselves in the temple while allegedly Chad's wife wasn't yet dead. Okay? She was still alive. And that I could be wrong on this one, but I do believe it's true. See, the way it's told is that they go into the temple. They did a sealing ceremony to make them married on the astral plane or the spiritual plane. Since they couldn't do it with a real priest and stuff because he's still married, they did the sealing ceremony in their minds. Like they went in there and did the ceremony in their minds, but they're in the temple. So on some level, they know doing that in this world that's breaking the rules. That's against the rules. They don't care. They're going to do what they want to do. They've got their own spiritual rules. They almost have their own mortal rules. And if they can do something and justify it with their spiritualism, then it's okay. Let's continue. Then we're at September 8th in Yellowstone, September 8th, 2019. Tylee goes missing. She's pretty much unnoticed initially that she was missing. And Melanie G goes up to visit Lori for the weekend. And she's told, when she asks where Tylee is, she's told that Tylee is at BYU. She's making an excuse as to where Tylee is. She's going ahead and saying Tylee's at BYU because it's consciousness of guilt. She knows that Tylee is gone. And instead of saying Tylee was a zombie and now she's buried in Chad Daybell's backyard, she makes up an excuse because she knows on some level that what she did was wrong. That's my opinion. Tylee, on Chad's light dark zombie scale that's come out, was allegedly a 4.1 dark, which is like the worst of the ones that we saw listed. So are we shocked that Tylee met a bad end? Because if she's turned into a zombie, what happens to zombies? Look at Charles, turned into a zombie, killed by Alex Cox. Tylee, zombie, last seen with Alex Cox, and then ends up in Chad Daybell's backyard. If Alex Cox killed Tylee and or JJ, or even if Chad did it, whoever killed the children, Lori would still be responsible for the welfare of her children, those in her care. For example, if you have a boyfriend and you have children and he neglects the child in your care and you're aware of it, you will also be charged at least with neglect and maybe even more. Manslaughter, murder, depending on your culpability. Parents, people with legal obligations, are not allowed to sit idly by in regards to their children. They have a duty. They have a duty to care. Lori had a duty to care for those children. Those children were under her care. When she married Chad Daybell as her stepfather, he also had a duty to care for those children. And in some states, the duty to care is a multiplier if you're the one doing heinous things to those kids. If you also had the duty to care. Let's say your neighbor kills your child. Your child picks an apple from his tree, gets mad, comes out with a shotgun or BB gun, shoots your kid in the eye and he dies. He's going to get charges. But he's not going to get the duty to care charge. Let's say dad does it. Dad plants a tree, has these glorious apples. Little Jimmy, his son, goes out there, pulls the apple. He says, I told you not to do that again. Hits him, shoots him in the face. Dad's going to get he's going to get the worst of it because you are not, you were supposed to take care of your children. You know, one can't sit there and say, Alex Cox did it all. Alex Cox did it all. And wash your hands when you have a duty to care, and you're supposed to also have a duty to warn. If you believe something is going to happen and you have the duty to care, you have a duty to warn. Just like psychiatrists have a duty to warn. If you say, you can come and tell them all the people you killed before, but if you intend to kill somebody else and you have an active, ongoing, I'm going to do this, they have a duty to tell. They can try to push this off as much as they want on dead Alex Cox. It's not going to work. And I see that the state has charged conspiracy. And they've already gone ahead and laid out some of the overt acts that are in furtherance of the conspiracy. I also defined conspiracy earlier in this video. Let's continue with our consciousness of guilt. We know that Tylee, JJ, Alex, and Lori all went to Yellowstone National Park. I think it was September 8th or 9th. Then they go back to the apartments. Lori's got an apartment. Uncle Alex has got an apartment. Also, the other Melanie has an apartment there too. And they all live in the same little complex. And Alex's cell phone that night goes to Lori's apartment in the wee hours. And then, which is odd, because they look at all the normal times that people come and go. These players in this allegedly in conspiracy interact and come and go. And it's odd. Alex doesn't go to Lori's apartment in the middle of the night. And then he also doesn't go to Chad Daybell's the next morning and spend like 2.5 hours there in the same location that it turns out that they find Tylee's body. Okay? Alex's phone was there. Was Alex the one holding the phone? That's the only thing the prosecution's going to have to jump through. Show where Lori is with her phone. Maybe she had a burner phone at that moment. Show where Chad Daybell was. Well, that's easy because he was there making excuses. So he's looking bad on this one. And Alex, the phone didn't walk by itself. So more than likely he was holding it. Who held the phone? Alex, Lori? It really doesn't matter. We're in a conspiracy now. We're in a conspiracy. Consciousness of guilt. Burying remains. Chad Daybell then texts his wife Tammy regarding burning limbs and a raccoon tail regarding a gunshot and getting ahead of burying certain limbs in the fire pit. Was this a consciousness of guilt? Was it because he knows that he didn't really use the fire pit very often at all, and then he's getting ahead of it in case any neighbors say, hey, what was your husband burning in the fire pit? I heard a gunshot. What was that all about? Yeah. So Chad Daybell essentially puts himself there at the scene of the crime, scene of the burial, by texting his own wife Tammy, getting ahead of it. Consciousness of guilt. Also putting Chad right there, pretty much with Alex, when the body, or with Alex's phone, should I say. That also lets you know that Tammy Daybell was not in on this. Otherwise, Chad wouldn't be making excuses to her. He wouldn't be texting the alibi to his wife if she was in on it. It also, like I said, puts Chad Daybell and Alex Cox at the location of Tylee's burial. Did I say JJ? I mean Tylee. Tylee's burial. I mean, the possible murder went on there. We don't know where the murder took place. Not we. We don't know. Maybe the state knows. But we do know that the remains were dismembered. They were burned. And anyone who knows anything about forensics, it's not easy to burn a body. The Nazis even found that out. They had to try it a whole bunch of times with a whole different bunch of measures. It was a whole thing. It's not easy to burn a body outside of a crematorium. And I think they figured that out. Chad had a history of being a grave digger. And he didn't have a history of being a crematorium owner, I guess. They identified Tylee through the angle of her jaw. And then they made a match, but then they wanted to go ahead and make sure that it was her through DNA. And I think they found some tissue that was analyzed. So sad. Let's talk about Alex Cox. He shot Charles Vallow, admitted to it, said it was self-defense. That's one. He'd also tased and tried to kill Lori's third husband, Joe Ryan. He went to jail, so yeah, that's proven. His phone is there while there's burning and burying of Tylee, so you got that. His phone's also there when there is the burying, duct taping of JJ. He's also allegedly there with the shooting of Brandon Boudreaux, the attempted murder. He might have also been there with the attempted murder on Tammy Daybell before she died of natural causes. I mean, there's a whole lot with Alex, and if you can tie in Alex to Chad, which you have a pretty good tie-in with him also being there during Tylee's burial, you know, it's not far from Lori. That's her uncle. That's her best bud. I mean, Chad, the gravedigger, was at least there knowingly allowing Alex to bury dead on his property. Why? Why? Who allows that? Who doesn't go screaming to the police and losing their mind about somebody burying 2 children on their property? What in the world would justify that? I mean, he's an accomplice after the fact at the very least, and that's why I'm not surprised those charges have already been leveled against him. Then JJ goes missing. JJ becomes a zombie. Melanie Gibb goes up there to take a little visit with Lori, and Lori's looking sideways at JJ, trying to convince Melanie G that he's become a zombie. Oh, the stories about him crawling on the counters and knocking off a picture of Jesus and stuff, and Melanie allegedly says, I didn't look like a zombie to me, or whatever, but there's this setting it up that, oh, he looks like a zombie, you know. I don't know what they expected Melanie G to do about that. Half of me almost makes me think that they were many times getting her into position to almost use her as a scapegoat. That's my opinion. I wonder if she thought that too after she started putting 2 and 2 together. And then the next day, allegedly, Mel G asks, where's JJ? Because, you know, he'd been bopping around the whole weekend, and then he's gone, and then all of a sudden he's with his grandmother. You know, JJ was in the way of her mission. That's allegedly what Lori had confided to Mel, that, you know, JJ was just in the way of our mission. And then JJ goes missing. And JJ also, in a way, was a witness. You want to talk about getting rid of witnesses. JJ and Tylee were witnesses to Charles Vallow, his murder. Lori goes on to the school. She disenrolls JJ. She also calls the school. She gives a whole plethora of excuses as to different people as to who JJ is with. You know, she obviously doesn't want to be paying for the school. You gotta say, why would you disenroll a child from school if he is going to be going to school? It's because She knew he didn't need it, right? Like, in my opinion, she knew he didn't need it. He's dead. Consciousness of guilt. You start getting rid of things. You get rid of his dog before he dies. Why? His service dog. Because you know he's not going to need it. You cancel him from school. Consciousness of guilt. Telling his babysitter that, he's someplace else. You know he's not going to need a babysitter anymore. We know that Alex Cox's phone was tracked to the place where JJ's remains were found on Chad Daybell's property. Again, so either Alex Cox buried JJ there, seemingly with Chad's consent, or somebody holding his phone did. Lori? Who knows? More than likely, the same thing as what happened with Tylee's burial. More than likely, Chad. Oh, man. This thing is so nasty and dirty. It's so dirty. It really is. So this case popped open when Kay Woodcock, grandmother of JJ, called in for a welfare check on JJ because she hadn't heard from him. And so the Rexburg police paid a little visit on Lori Vallow, asking her, about the welfare of JJ. And what happened here is nothing but consciousness of guilt, because you have Lori telling the police that JJ is with a friend in Arizona, which was Melanie Gibb. And then the police go outside in the dueness of, in time, and they speak with Alex Cox, and Alex Cox says that JJ's with Kay Woodcock, and they know that he's a liar right away because Kay Woodcock is the one that called in the welfare check. Consciousness of guilt. And then you have Chad Daybell allegedly outside denying he knows his own darn wife very well, denying he has his own darn wife's cell phone. Again, consciousness of guilt, distancing. He wants to distance himself from the situation before he can get it under any kind of control. That is my opinion. So Lori's lying to the police. That's illegal. She lies to the police, says JJ is with Melanie G. Consciousness of guilt. Chad Daybell pretends that the police not to know Lori. So Chad Daybell pretends that the police not to know his own wife. Consciousness of guilt. Why? Why did he tell the police he didn't have her cell phone number? If you think about that, it's probably because they used the burner phones between each other so much, and he didn't right off the top of his head know her cell phone number, his own wife's cell phone number, because he used the burner phones with her, and he wasn't about to give those burner phones numbers to the police. Consciousness of guilt. Alex Cox tells the police that JJ is with Kay Woodcock, which the police know is a lie, and it makes it more suspicious. Consciousness of guilt. Chad tells Melanie G. Now this is where it's really ramping up the alibi portion of it. Chad calls Melanie G outside Lori's home and says, when the police call you, don't pick up the phone. And it's regarding JJ. Don't pick up the phone. And so he's essentially trying to set up an alibi and setting Mel G up to be the alibi, to say that she's got JJ, there's nothing to worry about, everybody go home. Nothing to see here. Then Lori calls Mel G and says the same thing. Everything's fine, it's all cool. Just tell the police that when they call you that, you're with JJ and, that y'all are at Frozen and that's why you didn't pick up the phone, and take some pictures of some random kids. Take some pictures. Prove it. You're our alibi, essentially. Consciousness of guilt. Why do you do that? Because you know those children are dead. Because you know those children are decomposing on your husband's property. JJ's a special needs kid. And Lori, like I mentioned, she gave away his dog. She left his medication in the apartment when they legged it after the welfare check. She put his belongings in storage. She put both children's belongings in storage. Why? Because they don't need them. Consciousness of guilt. They don't need them when they're dead, folks. The next day, Lori and Chad, they flee the jurisdiction. Shit, they flee the mainland. They don't just flee Idaho or Arizona. They flee the mainland to Hawaii. Consciousness of guilt. Allegedly, Lori refused to cooperate with the police regarding the whereabouts of her children. I mean, what can she tell them that's truthful? They became zombies, and so we killed them and buried them in Chad Daybell's yard. Consciousness of guilt. The demeanor of Chad and Lori when they're in Hawaii, even up to today's date, their demeanor, seemingly not worrying, not fretting, not wringing their hands, not crying over these missing children. You know, people put cameras in their faces asking where their missing children were. I mean, the people asking the questions, voices are cracking, you know, getting hysterical almost. Where are your children? No comment. And they're off living their best life. 5 people dead at least, and they're off living their best lives. Consciousness of guilt. They don't need to be worried about children. They know where those children are. They're not worried anymore. Allegedly, their spirits are freed. They were zombies. They were possessed. Their spirits are freed. Everything's good. There's more. For example, allegedly Lori sent a fake text to a friend of Tylee, or replied to a text pretending to be Tylee. That's more consciousness of guilt, because Tylee would have been dead by that date. And those Venmo payments made through Tylee's account. Again, consciousness of guilt. Tylee was not alive. Were you trying to make her look like she was still alive without producing her? There is so much other little bits of evidence, but I'm just giving you a taste of what kind of stuff that the prosecution could bring forth, the state could bring forth to build a building to show that these folks are at least guilty of some conspiracy. So my battery died. I'm not entirely sure where it left off, so let's go ahead and plow back into it. You know, there's a whole lot of other stuff. Like if I go back into the timeline, I could tell you how Charles Vallow, Lori's husband, she threatened him. She threatened him and told him, I will murder you if you get in the way of my mission. You've got a zombie in you. She threatened him. That's part of a plan. If you don't get out of my way and let me, go on with my mission, paraphrased, I'm going to kill you. And he went to the police and told them that. And she went to Community Bridges and apparently wasn't deemed to be a danger to herself or others, and he just wasn't taken seriously. But to me, with her threatening him, you're in the way of my mission, she knew she had a mission and he didn't need to be in her way. And all the people that were in their way seemingly became zombies and seemingly died mysteriously. And to wrap up, just looking at the charges that Chad caught recently, was it yesterday? It's obvious that the state is going with a conspiracy theory at this point. And to give you some background, that in the paperwork they have alleged the overt acts in furtherance of the conspiracy. This is for Chad. But again, a conspiracy, you don't have to have everyone doing every single act. You just have to have some knowing, agreement, everybody's on the same page, and then they know somebody's doing it. So for Tylee, and this is Chad, they're going to allege that on September 9th, that Chad had made some texts to another, which was Tammy, his wife at the time, and essentially disguising human remains. I think that's the text talking about the raccoon and burying limbs in the fire pit. And it's really gross that limbs, he meant tree limbs, but it really was dismembered limbs. It's so hard, I can't go there. The second part of that for this charge is on November 26th, Lori Vallow gave false information to the police regarding the BYU. So saying Tylee was not at BYU, but she gave false information to the police that is where Tylee was. By January 30th, Lori Vallow refused to comply with the court and produce the children. So that is some of the acts in furtherance of the conspiracy that they definitely can prove that, according to them. And then for JJ, the overt acts in furtherance of the conspiracy are on November 26, 2019, that Chad Daybell misrepresented his relationship with Lori Vallow. In other words, he didn't say, she's my wife. He just was like, I barely know her. And then, paraphrased. And then come to find out, yeah, he's got her cell phone because she's his wife. Then the second part of that is on November 26th, Chad Daybell contacted Melanie Gibbs to request her non-cooperation with law enforcement regarding JJ. In other words, don't pick up the phone. And then on November 26th, Lori Vallow then provided false location for JJ to law enforcement. She told them allegedly that he was with Melanie. And then on November 26th, Lori called Melanie Gibb and encouraged her non-cooperation with law enforcement regarding JJ. She asked her to pretend to have him and to tell the police that they were together at Frozen. And then the next part, number 5, is that on November 26th, Lori Vallow encouraged Melanie Gibb to present false evidence to law enforcement. So yeah, I mean, they're definitely running with the conspiracy element. There's a whole lot more overt acts in furtherance of the conspiracy, but I guess they probably wear themselves out with all kinds of side issues trying to get it down. They just need to present the bare bones to get the charges, and so yeah, it's a very difficult case. There is so much, in my opinion, consciousness of guilt. There's so much circumstantial evidence, but you have to keep in mind that some hearsay stuff can get kicked out unless it meets the hearsay exception. If I was to put my Miss Cleo hat and do some fortune telling, I would guess that they're going to take the side players that don't have as much culpability, if there are any, like maybe Melanie Gibb, and use them to turn state's evidence essentially, or just cooperate with the state and with the government against Chad Daybell, against Lori Vallow and the deceased Alex, to support the conspiracy, to basically tell truthfully what they know, and in order, not to catch any charges themselves. And maybe even Melanie Pulowski, but I'm not sure. There's just a lot of players, and there's a lot of little side tangents you could go on, but I do believe that sometimes it's best to just go after the biggest fish and fry those, fish. And this is going to be a really interesting trial. It's very Manson-esque in the sense of, with a conspiracy of this kind, you don't need the head person or the head 2 people doing all the dirty work. As long as everybody's in there, they agree, they're all with the same mission, and you send off someone to do something and they do it, you're part of it. So I think this all is born out of a bad religious doctrine, and people that are using religion for their own personal gain, and maybe even hoodwinking people in the process. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It's hard. Nobody wants to make videos about children that have been killed by their own family. It's difficult. So, if you like this video, please press the like button, and if you hit subscribe, you'll just be notified next time I upload a new video. And without further ado, have an excellent day.